and they actually get a direct feedback on something that is very personal to them, rather than just a bunch of behaviours which they may think, well, I'm not interested in those.
Yes.
So I found that really useful. Should we be saying sometimes to individual leaders, build your own 360? What are the things you want to know? Not that I want to know.
You could leave it all up to them.
Or is it an element, half and half, organisation driven or what?
Yeah.
I think the other thing just on process is just when we think about a lot of organisations have competency frameworks, and I think it's a great vehicle to help embed competency frameworks, because actually with the best will in the world against the organisations that I've worked with or consulted with, those frameworks are not embedded, and so they need all the help and support, of which 360
It's a handy tool to do that.
It is, absolutely,
really
not to underestimate it for that reason, as a consistent vehicle again.
Yeah.
Could you add values and behaviours there then, help to embed organisational values and behaviours?
Yes.
Because whilst I agree with competency frameworks, I don't think they're behaviourally written and often difficult in the 360. You know, do they open the post well? Yeah. You know, do they reply to all letters? Yes.
Well, they're customer focused.
But are they doing it well?
Yeah.
Or, you know, is there empathy there? Is there compassion if needed? And all those kind of things. So I think values and behaviours for me would really be...
Yes. So in a way, that's partly what our HR clients are looking for, actually. So I was going to ask, what's the value to the managers in having their own people in the 360? Is there anything else to add there to fill this little bit of space here?
Well, I think there's, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience in this, but there's where 360 goes, where appraisal doesn't go. There's that kind of, all that extra value there that you can't, that is limited if you just have a one-to-one appraisal.
Goes further.
I don't know what all the benefits are, but I know.
Is that dividing up an appraisal 360 from a development 360 though? Is that where you're going with that?
Could be. I was just under the impression that a lot of people had gone into 360 because they saw the limitations of appraisal. That's all.
So basically, it allows a manager to explore areas outside of what would normally come up in an appraisal. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and for the it also I think might just gather a lot of information and freedom to communicate that may be limited by the agendas of the two people clashing.
Yes. It's a bit more rounded.
Yeah, it might have a personal. It might either be personal friends or it might be personal rivals or something like that, and that could colour all the.
There may be a lack of trust, or there might be issues in the manager relationship. So yes, it provides a more objective or more rounded.
It gets around it,
Particularly in these days of devolved teams.
Yes.
You know, if you're working with somebody, but actually you don't work with them, they're in London and you're based in Manchester, and if you're getting a 360 from the people that actually work with them in London, you might be seeing a different person than the one you're talking to once a week on the phone. That's absolutely crucial as well.
There's what space for one more. Anybody got a burning value?
So more of a comment than a burning value. I'm quite a baby when it comes to 360. But when you ask why, I imagine the value will be different if it's a one-off.
Yes.
Where you're causing a transformational shift.
Yes.
Good point.
Whereas an ongoing process would be more where you embed the values.
Yes.
Particularly useful at the start of a development programme. You know, if you did 360 at the beginning of a leadership programme, if you have one in place, and then you 360 at the end. And as long as those things that you're 360ing against are the things you're looking to develop within the individual, you can actually look for a delta. And you're starting to look for ROI and all that kind of thing based on what you're seeing.
Yes.
That's a really good point.
Yes, that's a good point. And I mean, I'd say that I'm just thinking, is there anything else that I can see? The key thing for me is if my understanding of transformational processes, however that is that getting what is so, i.e. what is true right now, is like a totally critical step in that process. However that process is going to go, getting what's so and what's true right now is critical. And that, I think, is what 360 allows you to do, is getting a clearer grip on reality, actually. So you've got a more powerful relationship to reality when you've got that data. So you're actually much more likely to move forward just because it's that you getting or so about you in your relationships. So,
I just have one small thing about which I'll have to squeeze in a corner somewhere.
okay.
Well, I really think in the case of talent innovations particularly, there's actually a value in the visual side of it.
Okay.
Good report.
Actually being able to see things.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
different to hearing things.
Yes.
Because that's
Very good point.
That's a really good point.
Yes. Because, I mean, I'm just thinking of my own life, because I have to test out these new instruments. I have to do 360 every year or so, and I have to. And because it's a degree of pain involved in this process of getting what's so, right? I mean, you know, I'm human, but I can see the visuals
Yeah.
when I'm reflecting on my lack of strategic planning, for instance, just as an example. It's like it was so there when I did the 360 a year and a half ago, and since then I've put in all sorts of processes, like had Ishri come and help us with our business planning process, which has completely transformed the whole area. But I saw it in the bar charts, you know, it's there in my head in the visual.
Yeah,
Right,
that's good.
yeah. It's interesting, very, very interesting. Cool. Anything else anyone wants to say on this topic? Good. Let's go to critical steps in the process then. I'm going to move over here. So critical steps in the process. Let's note them, and then we may debate them as we go. I think we might have to do a quick debate on them, and then if we need a quick debate, we can go back to them. Critical steps in the process. What do you think?
The first thing is you have to decide why you're doing it.
The purpose,
Why
really, yeah.
is the client
Yeah.
using
Why
the
are
360?
you doing it? Yes. Very, very important. And it can be a whole range of different purposes, can't it, and reasons why. Yes.
And I think you need to know, I mean, just thinking now of me getting in when I go into a company, you need to know the culture of the company.
Yes.
Is the company used to doing this kind of thing? Is it, we were saying earlier, is it a closed company where feedback doesn't normally happen? Or is it a fairly open, honest company where actually they're pretty good with feedback?
Okay.
And that just allows you to look at the 360 differently.
So what you're saying is you need to align your 360, the alignment of the 360 to the culture.
You certainly need to know what the culture is. Whether you're going to align to it or not depends on the culture that you found when you get there.
Your culture.
Even if you need to know how difficult it's going to be to do the introduction, how much you're going to have to be briefing people to understand what 360 is about.
What trust issues you need to manage and all
Absolutely.
that.
What are you trying to achieve from this 360? Because I've worked with people and immediately gone, oh, I'm not getting involved in 360. My manager will see that and that's it. You know, my appraisal will be written by it. Well, no, hang on, that's not the way it works. And you need to let the respondees know, not just the individual that's going to receive the feedback.
Yes.
The people who are going to write the feedback need to know how it's going to be used,
Yes.
the purpose of it, the value of it to the person they're reporting back.
Yeah, so you mentioned all sorts of process steps there actually.
Okay.
Okay. So the briefing.
You were writing.
I know.
It's on camera.
Briefing, I know. That makes it worse. Briefing and communication.
Briefing and
It's
communication.
critical step, right?
Hugely important to let people know what's going on.
Of
why
all
they're doing it.
reviewers.
Or particularly the reviewers. Because otherwise, where's the value in the 360 if you're not going to get that honest feedback?
Exactly.
And you know, we've all seen it. There's nothing. Well, I say there's nothing worse than the feedback which says, "Yep, you're Mr. Average." You know, everybody scored you at 3, and there's not a comment on the piece of paper. Well done, thank you. Carry on. How can I help? It's so difficult. You really want that quantitative feedback, as we've said, which actually says, "Oh well, I was working with him last week, and he's really closed. I can never get anything from him, and it's really difficult to work with this individual." Great feedback. Let's work with that. And that gives you some, or this person is really good at presentations or working with individuals, you know, and we just love working with him or her because they're so knowledgeable and they share that knowledge. Wow, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Because they didn't even realise that that's what they do. They are a hub of knowledge. They are somebody in an organisation who's the go-to for knowledge.
So what you're saying behind that is that briefing communication is important in order to encourage them to give that level of
The value of
contribution.
Absolutely.
To encourage.